Hey, everybody, welcome into Live with Greg this Tuesday night. I'm so thrilled to be talking to my man, Ladarius Price, here in Chattanooga, Tennessee. How's it going?
Man, it's going great, Greg. It's going great.
So good to be talking to you. You know, you have been doing some extraordinary things in our community, and we're going to touch on that throughout the evening. But before we get started tonight, first off, how are you doing? Because I know you've been busy. Every time I turn around, it's Ladarius is here and there. It's like you need a clone of yourself. But more importantly, you really work hard during the COVID-19 pandemic to make sure so many underserved communities knew what was available to them. And why was that so important to you?
It was important to me because it's what, God has called me to do in my life. And Greg, that's the only explanation for why I do what I do. And I always try to make sure I get that conveyed to people. It's not about me. It's not a Ladarius show. It's just me walking in my purpose and my destiny that God has set for me. And I wouldn't have it any other way. I love what he's called me to do. He's customized my life in such a way. Um, that he's just outlined everything that he wants me to do in my life. So you're absolutely right. Doing this past year, man, it's been very strenuous. Very early on, I prayed and asked him what is it exactly that he wanted me to do, because very much of what I do is going out in the community and doing education and things of that nature. But of course, with a city that was shut down, a lot of the outreach that I've done through my job and through my my personal nonprofit, you weren't able to pretty much be face to face with people. And so he started out with me going out in different communities, feeding people, and things of that nature, and it just evolved into testing and vaccinations, and it just keeps going on and on, and he just shows me what he wants me to do next. So I'm very, very grateful for the life that he's given me.
You know, speaking of the life he's giving you, you lost your mom a few years ago, and I've heard you talk about your mom very candidly, and you have put together a scholarship in her honor. What led you to want to do something like this?
Man, my mom, Greg, right before I came down the steps, God spoke to me, and I want to make sure I say this as well. I'm very transparent about my life and what I do. My mom could not have children. She was not able to
Mhm.
have kids. And so she's, of course, we are biologically kin to each other. But she pretty much got me before I was even one. And her and my dad, before they even got married, she had me. And they got together, and they raised me, and I'm the product of a household of just complete love. The sacrifice that she made, she always called me her miracle child. And I know
Mhm.
for a fact that God placed us together. He placed us in each other's lives. I don't know where I would be, who I would be, if it were not for Pamela Price. And I say that fighting back tears every time that I talk about it. She literally devoted her life to making me who I am. So for me, it's all about carrying on her legacy of sacrifice and giving, and blessing other people. I watched her do that her entire life. I sometimes watched her do it to a fault, where she always put other people before her. And that's something that I try not to do. At times, my wife gets on me about that. But I just love blessing people, and I just want to carry on the legacy that of her life and who she was.
When you think about your mom, we are coming off of Mother's Day. I'm sure she taught you so many important lessons. What are some of those top lessons your mom taught you that you still carry on today, and you instill those same values in your own children?
Man, being confident in who I am. Very early on in middle school, that it came across sometimes as me being arrogant, and that followed me into high school and even on into adulthood. But my mom always taught me, be confident in who you are. When she transitioned, one of the first things that I talked about at her homegoing celebration was she's responsible for leading me to Christ. And that's what I've always wanted to instill into my kids. First and foremost, is their faith. And that's something that she, always instilled in me. Family was a very big component. That's why I love my wife and my kids the way that I do, because my mom always instilled in me to love my family, to always be there for my family, to always have their back. And that's not always in blood. You know, family is not always about blood. It's about people that God sends into your life. Um, and he deems them as family. So those are just some of the things, man. She taught me so many lessons, and she gave me so many nuggets that I use throughout my life and in parenting, you know, right to this day. And I'm just very, very grateful for all of the life lessons that she taught me that I now pass on to my kids.
When you think about this scholarship in her honor, I know the deadline, it says it passed May 1st, but you are such a giving person. You extended the deadline until this coming Thursday. What are some of those what are some of the qualifications to apply, and how can people apply?
I asked that they have a 3.0. I also, and it's, I mean, it's very minimum requirements that show me what school that you're going to. I wanted them to have two character references because I'm very big on, of course, the academic side is very, very important. But who you are as an individual, you know, what people say about you beyond you being in a classroom, that's what really means the most to me, is those character references. And then also an essay on a 500-word essay on what this pandemic, what you've learned from this. Because I know I've learned a lot about me as a person during this pandemic. That was one of the things that I asked my kids very early on last year was, what have you learned in this season of your life? Because it's definitely taught all of us a lot about who we are. It's taught us a lot about resiliency. It taught us a lot about our faith. So for the young people that are applying for the scholarship, like I said, it's very minimal things, but at the same time, they are things that I know would be important to my mother. And so that's why I put those qualifications out there. They're able to email me, and I'm sure it's on the flyer,
Mhm.
Ladarius Price at gmail.com. They're able to email me with those requirements. And then I'm reviewing them right now. I pretty much got four that I'm going to give out. And this year, we're going to give out more than we've done in the past. This is the third year. She passed January the 11th of 2018. And we started doing it right off the bat. So this year we're going to give away 4 scholarships, where in the previous years we've given away 2. I believe anything that God is involved in, He will grow it and He will expand it. And so He's doing that. He's allowed me to, get grants and get resources in, so I can be a blessing to other people as God has blessed me.
Simply amazing, my friend. What do you think your mom would say to know that you are giving back to so many young people in the community where she raised you?
She will say, "You better." Like she was the humbling of Ladarius.
Mhm.
She always kept me on a level ground. She always talked about, I'm never gonna put you up on a pedestal because I know that you're human and you're gonna make mistakes throughout your life. I mean, that's another thing that I do with my kids right now. My kids are great. They're phenomenal. I'm very proud of them. At the same time, I understand that they're gonna make mistakes in their lives. Um, and I don't ever want them to be in a place where they feel like they're not able to make mistakes. You know, my
Mhm.
mom, when she talked to me day in and day out, we had a very close relationship. She was my best friend, and she always just talked to me about life and how important life is, how important it is to love other people past where you think they should be. And it's one thing I think we get caught up on a lot as human beings. We have these expectations of each other, oftentimes that we don't even have of ourselves. And so, with that being said, those were just some of the things that she would say very often. But she would be proud. She let me know how proud she was of me uh, very often throughout my life. I was very special to her. And so that's why, you see the individual and the person that you see. She helped mold me and shape me into who I am.
Most definitely. And also, on top of the scholarship, you have a couple other things happening. Free physicals with our friend this
Miss
Saturday. Tell us
Michelle,
about it.
yeah, Michelle Moore. She's a phenomenal person. We met through Chris Ramsey and I, my great friend, the late Chris Ramsey. We started a faith based Health and Wellness Council for churches. And Michelle came to that first meeting and she was a part of the council. And so that's how I met her. And over time, their relationship has evolved. And Michelle is much like me. We're Brandon High School graduates, and she loves to give back. And she was like, "How can we give back to the community? Why don't we do free physicals?" And of course, she's the medical portion of it, and I'm the outreach portion of it. And I said, "Great." And so you put those two together, and we'll be doing free physicals this Saturday at Avondale's Youth and Family Development Center from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. We roughly have about 30 kids that are signed up right now. And we're really excited about it because it's a thing that taxes a lot of brown and black communities. And what I mean is a lot of kids that live in our inner city, a lot of times they don't have medical insurance. They're not able to afford something as simple as a free sports physical. Something me and my wife often talk about with our kids is they take for granted being blessed the way that they are. And they don't think about a lot of things. But for me and my ministry, the length of time that I've worked with so many kids, there are things that they go without in their lives. So we wanted to provide that service to the community. So I'm very excited. Michelle is her business, her practice is Scenic City Wellness. So I want to make sure I shout her out and just thank her. She's my medical provider. She keeps me in line and make sure that I take care of myself. So a very important individual.
Very important. She's my medical provider, by the way, as well. When you think about this event that's coming up, a lot of people may say, "I want to come out." What are the ages? Because I know there's a cutoff.
Yeah, it's pretty much 11 or 12 years old to 17, 18. It's that middle school, sixth grade through high school, those rising seniors. And so we wanted to provide those sports physicals for them. And that way it'd be great to just go ahead and get it out the way, because as the school year ends, a lot more things will be opening up. Kids will be able to play sports at a more normal level than they have because of this pandemic. So we just wanted to provide that service to them. Actually, Miss Carson, the principal at Eastlake Academy, she reached out and she was like, "Price, I need you to put something together to do free physicals for my kids." And we've done it in the past at Archinard Middle and Delwood Middle. And so I said, well, we need to be at a centralized location because we can't go to every middle school, but we can go to one central location and provide that service. So we're really excited about it.
It's going to be a great event happening this Saturday, Avondale YFD Center. That's from 9 a.m. until 1 p.m. Do they just show up, Ladarius, or do they need to call ahead and sign up?
I would strongly suggest my Facebook page is public, so they can go on there. They can find the sign up, and we prefer that they sign up so we can have an idea of what we're working with. Also, they can email Ladarius Price at gmail.com and register. We would prefer that, but of course, if they just walk up on that Saturday, we'll be more than happy to have them.
And then also coming up, you have another event. I want to show this basketball camp coming up June 4th, 5th, and 6th. And this is something that you've been doing for several summers now. For people who don't know about your nonprofit, tell us about it.
Peak is called Placing Emphasis Around Kids, and it's a God-given vision. When I moved back home from Nashville in 2013, God began to speak to me about standing in the gap for young people. And so, of course, I've done a lot of work in classrooms and schools, all throughout our county. But I wanted to do something that was a God-given vision, something that I could pass on to my kids when I'm no longer here. And so when you talk about providing over 500 brand new coats every school year for kids, back to school uniforms, of course, I love Brandon High School, always donating to their athletic program, buying tennis shoes and stuff for kids. A lot of the feeding that was done this summer came from Peak. The sports physicals that you see, I mean, it's just, of course, I'll forget some stuff, but it's just a number of different things that we're able to provide to our community to be a blessing to young people. I love the next generation. God has called me to them. So I just love young people. So that organization is truly, it stands in the gap for kids. where they may need different things and they're not able to get it.
And this basketball enrichment camp, ages 7 to 16, is there a price? How do we sign up?
It is the unique thing about Peak. God pays it. So I've never charged a kid for a basketball camp, and a lot of times people tell me, "Well, you should charge something because it gives a way for people to be responsible." But God hadn't shown me that yet. He's shown me that He wants me to provide a free service because camps are a lot. There are a number of different camps that are going on around town, but Peak is the only free camp, and I say that very proudly because it's of quality. It's a safe haven for kids. They're able to come there and know that the counselors that are working there, along with myself, we are, individuals that they can trust. They're in a trusted atmosphere. They're going to be fed, and it's not just going to be anything. But the biggest thing outside from the basketball fundamentals that they get, it's about the life skills that they get. And then also, because it's my organization, everything that I do, it involves God. We open up with prayer. We close with prayer. And so that's the very unique thing about that camp is it teaches kids a lot about character and a lot about integrity and value. So
And when you talk about, integrity and values, you're always instilling so many values into our young people in our community. And I just saw a few hours ago on Instagram, you posted about another event coming up next month, which I feel is so crucial and so important considering the year we've come off of from 2020.
yeah, most definitely. So my friend and brother Chris Sands and I, we came up with this series during this pandemic called Against Our Odds, and it's a series of pouring into young men, mentoring them in different aspects. We did one back in September of last year, and it was centered around mental health.
Mhm.
We don't talk about mental health a lot in our communities. It's something that you deal with things and you internalize it. And we wanted to, especially during this pandemic, you seen teen suicide go up, you seen teen depression go up. All of this stuff was through the roof, and it was because our kids, they couldn't be kids, they couldn't be teenagers, they had to internalize everything. And so that's why that series was birthed. And then now, as we transition into where we are now, in the state of Tennessee, on July the 1st, we'll have a law where you don't have to have a permit to carry a gun. Well, for our young people, when you hear that, the first thing they'll say is, well, shoot, I can carry a gun on me. It's not going to be a big deal because it's not against the law to do so. But the reality is that'll be put out there, but there will be no education to follow it. Or really, it should be to precede it, to educate our young people on what that would look like. So on June the 12th at Brainerd High School, and I know I do everything at Brainerd because I love Brainerd so much. We'll be, hosting an event for middle school and high school young men, and also college young men, because I have an 18-year-old son that's about to go off to college, and they need to be educated as he's going up and down the interstate and down the road. Let's just keep it real. As a black man, I think about and I cover him in prayer every day because I know he'll be behind the wheel of a car, and he may get pulled over. I may get pulled over. And so we want to educate our young men about policing and about the laws, and about how you need to conduct yourself, and allow them to ask the type of questions that they want to ask. We just want to create these type of forums and platforms where our young people can ask the questions that they want to ask.
And so this event is going to be happening next month. It's going to be from 10 a.m. until noon on June 12th. What do you hope these young people take away from this event?
Greg, I really want them to be empowered, and we use that term a lot in our communities, but I want those young men to walk away empowered. I want them to say, now I have this knowledge. My life is now better as a result of it. And they can go out and properly educate their peers with this type of information. I always say, and it goes with everything. When we don't properly educate our young people, we're giving the world permission to miseducate them. And that's something that I say in every, no matter what vein that I'm teaching in, whether it be at church or whether it be with basketball or whether it be with HIV and AIDS, or whether it be with the vaccine, whatever I'm doing, I want to make sure that we properly educate our young people.
Again, this event is going to be happening very soon. So here it is on your screen. It's going to be on June 12th. Mark your calendars, 10 a.m. until noon at Brainerd High School. And it's going to be an event that you definitely need to check out. But Ladarius, as we move on and we transition to talk a little bit about you and your mission and some of the things that you've done in your career, I found this picture on your Instagram page. It appears to be your high school graduation picture. When you think back to those days in the early mid 90s when you were leaving high school to the person that God has molded you into today, are you shocked or are you just surprised or what's your feeling?
Honestly, this and you and I have talked about this in the station before, because I was messing with you about it. You have ministers and pastors in your family. I've been knowing that I've had this calling on my life for a long time. And even when I was younger, my mom, she would always say, and I'll give you this example. I would come home with the free lunch slip, and it's no slight to anyone, because like I said, I grew up in a two-parent home, great home. And I would say, Mom, I got this slip for free lunch. And she was like, boy, we make too much money for you to get free lunch. And I was like, well, if you fill it out, they not gonna know. And she was like, look, you're the type of individual, the moment that you do something wrong, everybody else can do it and they'll get away with it. And she was like, but you're the type of individual, the moment that you do something wrong, it's going to be highlighted. And so I say all of that to say, very early in my life, I knew that God had a calling on me. And then as I developed and I grown, even in my early years, my pastor, Dr. R.J. McCowan, he prophesied to me and talked about how God had a lasso around my life and he was pulling me closer to him. And so I say all of that to say, I'm not surprised by what God is doing with me and in my life. I will say this, you talk about growth. When I look at that picture and I look at where I am now, a whole lot of growth, man, a lot of growing up between then and now. And I've hit my head a couple of times, but I'm very grateful for this journey. I'm thankful. I still got a lot of growing to do. By no means have I arrived. They call me Petty Price, and they call me that for a reason. I can be extremely petty at times. And so I've, as they say in the Baptist church, God ain't through with me yet. He's definitely
Amen.
not. But I'm definitely grateful for the growth in my life.
Years ago, one of the pastor that I grew up with, the church, he passed away in 2010. I remember he said, Gregory, if the Lord called you, would you run from it? I said, I wouldn't run from it. So I have to ask you, when you were called, did you feel that? Did you have that moment like, Lord, are you really talking to me?
Yeah, you have those moments where you'll even ignore him. And he's talking to you. You can hear his voice is very audible. And you'll be like, nah, he ain't talking to me, but the reality is, he's talking to you. And then the other part is the accountability. A lot of times we run from callings, we run from greatness, we run from a lot of things because we know it's going to hold us to a higher level of accountability than many of our friends and family members. And so, you have to sustain and be consistent if you want to be successful. And I definitely, it's no secret that I want to be successful in my life. I want to be a great example of God's goodness. And so with that being said, I early on ran, but the reality is you can't outrun him. So here I
As we
am.
prepare, as we prepare to wrap up tonight, when you think about, I was looking at some pictures and I saw a picture of your son. When you think about your son, he's getting ready to go out to college, just on a scholarship with Miles.
Yeah.
So to see he's getting ready to go to college, what is this like for you to see this little baby that was born and now you've raised him with his mom and now he's going off to college? What are your feelings right now?
Man, you waited to the end to bring in the tear jerker. You did. Greg, man, having him when I was 22 years old on the campus of Austin Peay State University. You talking about a life changer.
Hmm.
I will say the thing that prepared me for this was knowing the type of parents that I had and have. My dad is still here. The sacrifices that they made for me. There was no way that I was not going to be there for my son the way that my dad, my mom, and my grandmother have been there for me. And so when I think about this journey that I've been on with him, from us being at Austin Peay, his mom having to stop running track, you know, being pregnant, us, having our ups and downs, getting married, then getting divorced, transitioning through all of that, and then to be where we are now, and over the past couple of years, being in this very healthy place of us being able to work together and raise our kids together, to see where my son is in his life right now. I thank God. I thank God for my wife. There's been his process of even having to come down from Nashville, to come to Chattanooga his senior year because they were not playing football, and we knew that there was a great possibility for him to get a scholarship. Even that process in itself was one that was very tedious, but it's also, as I told him, it's a part of your testimony. It's a part of what God is doing in your life. And so, Greg, I'm very grateful. He's been a great son. Um, he hasn't caused me any issues. I mean, he's very respectful, a very smart kid, one that is very humble. And so I'm just extremely grateful to God for blessing me with him. He made me grow up, and that's where I'll finish at. Him being in my life at 22 years old, it made me become a man. I went from a boy to a man when he hit the scene. So I'm very, I owe him a lot.
As we wrap up tonight, I want to share this last picture. I want next to the last picture, actually. This picture here. You posted this on Instagram several weeks ago, and I remember saving this for this moment. You wrote, I can say I married two great women. They are phenomenal mothers. I thank God for both of them daily. If maturity and love was a picture, it would be us. Co parenting requires removal of self, maturity, sacrifice, putting your child first, and focusing on doing your part. Cheers to stress free co parenting. When
Oh
you
yeah,
put that up, what did you mean by that?
man. What I meant by that is, my wife, and I don't call her my ex-wife because of the respect that I have for her with friends. Man, you talk about, because I see so many people, and it's not a black white thing. When you go through a divorce and you part ways with the person, but kids are involved, there are so many dynamics that go into successfully raising your kids. And you have to remove yourself. You have to become a selfless individual and really put your kids first. And I'll say this just transparently, it has not always been easy. When we first parted ways, it gets ugly at times. Um, Even as it relates to my wife, she was once married, and some of the situations that she's had to go through, and on that side of it. So to be where we are, I just thank God every day, man. It's a stress-free situation. She, when she comes down from Nashville, she stays with us. When we go up to Nashville and stay, we stay with her, and we're friends, and we care about, we're family at the end of the day. And I thank God for that situation because I see some ugly stuff. Like I said, I work with kids and in the community day in and day out. So, you know,
I admire you and I admire this post because, I'm a product of divorced parents. So I know what that life is like, in the very beginning. For people watching who are trying to get over that hump to co parent, what advice would you give those parents out there watching?
man, Greg, I would say, even from the standpoint of you don't have to like each other, but you have to respect each other. And you have to have the end game in mind of I'm doing this for my child. The reality is, and people don't want to hear, is you laid down with them, you did, and that's it's a tough pill to swallow at times, but our kids deserve the best. They do. And the best requires us removing ourselves from the equation and always placing them at the forefront. So if it was any bit of advice, I say get over yourself. Get over yourself and make sure you put your kids first. So
And last but not least, we talked about all the great things that you're doing in the community. You are just everywhere, giving back in so many different ways. You talk about your son, you talk about your family, but a few years ago, the Lord sent you that other piece of your life. What has it been like to go on this journey with your wife?
man, I honestly, I always say I was doing a lot of things, and you knew me
Mhm.
before I met my wife. I was doing stuff, but it went from being here to I can't, it's through the roof now, and it continues to grow. And it's because of her. He sent me that helpmate, he sent me that encourager, he sent me that person. He knew my mom was going to transition. He sent me that cheerleader. He sent me that person that keeps me grounded. Um, it's nothing like having that person that you're equally yoked with, that God has sent you, and you're in covenant together, and you simply lean on each other, you trust each other. That's your best friend. And she's been a game changer for me. I told her a couple of weeks ago when she made me take off work one day and rest, which I typically don't do. And she had to threaten me, and I said that she's a whole vibe. That's what I call her. So I'm very grateful for her, that God sent her to me. We met each other through me walking in my purpose. We met each other at one of my peak mother-daughter events. So you walk in your purpose and you do what God has called you to do, and He'll align everything for you. So I'm eternally grateful for her.
Well, Darius, I really appreciate you, the conversation tonight. For people that want to pour back into your nonprofit, how can they do so?
Of course we got a peak Facebook page. I'm in the process of shifting to a website. And so it is I always like to say it is a 501c3 nonprofit, which means it's legit. Which means it's not blessing Ladarius, it's blessing other people when they give. And so they can reach out to me. They can go on our peak Facebook page and look me up. But I like to always put stuff out there so people can see what they've donated to. I think that's very important. So
Most definitely. Again, folks, if you are watching tonight, you got to check out some of the great things that Darius is doing in our community. I want to do a run through really quickly of everything that's going on before we wrap up tonight. Here you go. We got a scholarship. It says May 1st. He's extended it until Thursday of this week. So get your applications in. You can email Ladarius. There's the email there on this page here. Also, don't forget about the Against the All Odds panel discussion. This is a partnership with, Chris Sands, Pastor Chris Sands. So this is going to be June 12th from 10 a.m. until noon at Brainerd High School. Also, don't forget about the free sports physicals. This is by our friend, Miss Michelle Morris over at Scenic City Wellness. So be sure to sign up for that. You can go to his Facebook page and sign up. This is going to be at the Avondale YFD Center from 9 a.m. until 1 p.m. this Saturday. And last but not least, the Peak Basketball Enrichment Camp. This is happening on June 4th, 5th, 6th. And this is Peak putting this on. This is his own nonprofit. And he said God told him to do this for free. He's been doing this for free for so many years. So, Ladarius, I just want to say, I want to commend you, my friend, for everything that you're doing, giving back to so many people in our community. Keep doing what you're doing. I'm so proud of the work you're doing, and looking forward to talking to you about more stuff coming up in the near future.
Greg, I appreciate you. And as I always tell you, man, I know God sent you to Chattanooga for a reason. You continue to use your platform to help so many of us spread the word. And you've introduced me to a lot of people just through the platform that you've created. So we're eternally grateful for you. News Channel 9, y'all better make sure y'all keep giving him good contracts so he don't move out of town.
You know what? They're treating me well. And by the way, I'll see you on the show. I think not tomorrow morning, but we're taping tomorrow.
Yes.
Sounds good. Everybody, check him out, Ladarius Price. Go to his pages on social media. Sign up for some of this great stuff he's doing and spread the word to so many other people in our community. Have a good night, everybody.